Shadow of displacement looms again, Israeli tanks advance on Gaza settlements despite ceasefire. Just days after a tenuous ceasefire brought a fragile peace to Gaza, Israeli tanks have once again been spotted pushing towards settlements near the coastal enclave. This renewed military activity has cast a chilling shadow over the lives of Palestinians in Gaza, many of whom remain displaced from their homes due to the recent conflict. A fragile truce, a persisting threat. On October 26, 2023, a ceasefire agreement brokered by Egypt ended 3 days of intense fighting between Israel and Hamas, the Palestinian militant group that governs Gaza. The conflict, sparked by Israeli airstrikes on Hamas targets, resulted in the deaths of at least 44 Palestinians and 3 Israelis. Despite the ceasefire, tensions remain high. Israeli military incursions into Gaza are not uncommon, and the recent tank movements have raised fears of another escalation. Residents of Gaza, many of whom are still reeling from the destruction and displacement caused by the October fighting, are now forced to grapple with the possibility of further violence. Living in the shadow of conflict. The renewed Israeli military activity comes at a particularly difficult time for Palestinians in Gaza. Thousands of families remain displaced from their homes, many living in temporary shelters or with relatives. The recent conflict has only exacerbated the already dire humanitarian situation in Gaza, with food insecurity, water shortages, and a lack of medical supplies plaguing the population. The prospect of another conflict adds to the trauma and uncertainty faced by Palestinians in Gaza. Many express a deep sense of despair and disillusionment, questioning the long-term viability of the ceasefire and the possibility of lasting peace. International community urged to act. The international community has called on both Israel and Hamas to uphold the ceasefire and refrain from any actions that could provoke further violence. However, with Israeli tanks once again on the move, there is a growing sense that the fragile peace in Gaza is hanging by a thread. Human rights groups and humanitarian organizations are urging the international community to increase pressure on both sides to de-escalate the situation and work towards a more lasting solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They argue that without addressing the root causes of the conflict, including the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories and the blockade of Gaza, the cycle of violence is likely to continue. A future uncertain. The renewed Israeli military activity in Gaza serves as a stark reminder of the precariousness of life for Palestinians in the coastal enclave. While the immediate threat of renewed fighting may have receded, the underlying tensions and injustices remain. The international community must not turn a blind eye to the plight of Palestinians in Gaza and must work towards a just and lasting solution to the conflict that ensures the safety and security of all. It is crucial to remember that the human cost of conflict is often borne by ordinary people, who are forced to flee their homes, lose loved ones, and live in constant fear. The international community has a responsibility to protect the rights of Palestinians in Gaza and to work towards a future where they can live free from the threat of violence and displacement. Additional notes. The recent Israeli military activity in Gaza has raised fears of another escalation of violence. Thousands of Palestinians remain displaced from their homes due to the October fighting. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is dire, with food insecurity, water shortages, and a lack of medical supplies. The international community is urged to increase pressure on both Israel and Hamas to de-escalate the situation and work towards a lasting solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.